All right, with only one game left in week 8, we're going to look at our waiver wire pickups for week 9. Before we do that, do me a favor. Tell me what you think is going to happen in tonight's Monday Night Football matchup, Bengals-Browns. Give me a prediction. I want to know what you think the score is going to be. Let me know in the comments below. Like, subscribe. And I'm going to start with some honorable mentions here for waiver wires. I'm going to give you players that should be rostered already and players that didn't make my top 10. So whether you're in a deep league or not, this will be very, very relevant for you this entire video. First, honorable mentions that should already be rostered. All right, Garrett Wilson, Darnell Mooney, Tyler Algier, Chuba Hubbard. All of these players should already be rostered, and some of them can offer flex appeal at this very point. Next, honorable mention, guys that didn't make my top 10, but I still think, if you don't get someone inside this top 10 or you have multiple spots that you can add, have a look at some of these players. James Cook in particular, I think is very interesting. His usage intrigued me a lot this week. After bye weeks, typically teams start to use their rookies a little bit more. I'm curious to see if that trend will kind of continue. Donovan Peoples-Jones has been extremely consistent. Evan Ingram at the tight end position has been great. So that's the honorable mentions, guys who didn't make it into my top 10. Now let's look at the top 10. At number 10, how about Jaylen Warren, who is only rostered in 10% of sleeper leagues. Currently, he is just the third down running back on this team, but just the eye test alone, if you watch any of these Steeler games, it is very clear that Jaylen Warren is the more explosive, efficient. He's got more juice than Najee Harris. That's just the truth. And even analytically, we can point to those numbers as well. He's currently averaging 2 more yards per carry on the year than Najee. Jaylen has had a rush of 10 or more yards on 24% of his carries. Meanwhile, Najee only hitting 8% of that same number. So if Warren can continue to outplay Najee, we could continue to see his role grow. And, is he ever going to really overtake Najee? Probably not. But even this week, he had 75 yards on 9 touches. Najee had 58 yards on 14 touches. So even if he can continue to kind of eat into that and almost get like a Tony Pollard type workload, he can become really interesting. Fab-wise, I'm spending about 5% of my fab. I don't think you're going to need to break the bank for him. 5 to 10% feels comfortable. All right, at number 9, let's talk about Isaiah Likely, the star of Thursday Night Football this week. The reason that he's so low on this list is because he's only valuable if Mark Andrews misses time. And at this point, we're not even sure if Mark Andrews misses this week. But if Mark Andrews does miss this week, Isaiah Likely should be an incredible start. He's only rostered in 7% of sleeper leagues. And last week when Andrews went down, he had 6 receptions on 7 targets for 77 yards and a touchdown. It's obvious that the tight end 1 in this offense is going to succeed. Lamar loves his tight ends. Isaiah Likely is very, very talented. And with the injuries to Bateman as well, maybe you just add him if you're struggling at the tight end position and wait and see if Andrews is going to play or not. I'll spend about 5 to 10% of my fab as well on Likely if need be, depending on how needy you are at tight end. All right, at number 8, let's talk about a player that I really liked coming out of LSU, and he's just never really had time. He's never been given opportunities, hasn't been on the field very much, but let's talk about Terrace Marshall. He is currently rostered in just 5% of sleeper leagues, deep leagues out there, every league out there. I mean, this is a name that is probably available in your leagues. He's the clear number 2 in this offense after the team moved on from Robbie Anderson and Laviska Shenault, finally getting the playing time that we have been wanting him to see. Last week, he played a career high 86% of the snaps, and this week, he set a career high in targets with 9 and receiving yards with 87. I don't understand it, but for some reason, PJ Walker has this offense humming, and with Foreman, Walker, Chuba Hubbard, DJ Moore, and Terrace Marshall, seems like they're decent options at the moment. And again, Terrace Marshall gets to play Atlanta, not this week, but next week again. So let's see if this consistency continues and if PJ can keep Terrace kind of in that relevant, fantasy flex option. And that's really what this is about. If you're looking for a flex, pick Terrace up. Let's see what can happen. I'm spending about 5 to 10% of my fab on him as well. At number 7, a wide receiver I feel better about starting in the next 3 to 4 weeks. That is Josh Palmer, currently rostered in 35% of leagues. Keenan Allen should be back to full strength. However, Mike Williams just sustained a pretty bad ankle injury, and he's probably going to be sidelined, I would say anywhere from 3 to 4 weeks recovering from that ankle injury, maybe more. And Palmer's had 3 really good games this year of 13 or more PPR fantasy points. He's a very good flex if Mike Williams and Keenan Allen aren't at full strength. And at this time, that is not the case. So I'm willing to spend about 15% of my fab on Palmer. He's been a really good spot start with good matchups. I think you're going to continue to be able to use him throughout these bye weeks that you need to cover off for your positions. At number 6, how about Kenyon Drake, rostered in 39% of sleeper leagues? Again, kind of like likely, this all depends on the player ahead of him, which is Gus Edwards. And Gus Edwards had a hamstring injury last time out. There's reports that he might be able to go, but if we know anything about hamstring injuries, it's that the only thing that really heals a hamstring injury is time. And I'm not sure that they want to put Gus Edwards out there after he's already recovered from a serious injury, and then you could tweak that hamstring again. So if you're looking for a spot start, if Kenyon Drake's given opportunities in this offense, typically the running back scores fantasy points. It's been that way for the past 2 years. Whoever it's been in that backfield, if they've been given opportunities, they've scored fantasy points. And in fact, in week 6, Drake put up over 19 fantasy points. And last week, he put up over 16 fantasy points. So I'm willing to spend about 15% of my fab, kind of a spot start guide to kind of cover off these bye weeks. All right, at number 5, a very interesting name. And this is a name that I've kind of been throwing around on our live streams and in some of our videos, kind of just to highlight him and a sleeper guy. Let's kind of like, don't sleep on this player. And that is Kyren Williams, who is currently rostered in 29% of sleeper leagues. You might remember, if you're part of our Dynasty community, Kyren Williams was a very highly regarded prospect before the NFL Combine. And then at the Combine, he put up a shocking 40 time and it kind of just fell off the face of the earth. Well, there were reports that he was going to have an important role for this team week 1, even when Cam Akers was still involved. Then he had that injury and he's been on IR ever since. So we expect him to come back from IR either this week or the next. And the reason that this is so high at number 5 is because of Darrell Henderson's usage this week. I wasn't sure if Kyren could ever, outsnap Darrell Henderson without an injury. But this week we already saw Ronnie Rivers outsnap and outtouch Darrell Henderson. Ronnie Rivers was the RB1 this week. It wasn't Darrell Henderson. So Kyren Williams, is he slightly undersized? Yes, but he's a very good pass blocker. He's incredible as a pass catcher out of the backfield. He should be rostered in your leagues. I think he could have a very serious role, and I think he can beat out Ronnie Rivers. Darrell Henderson, just not the guy for them, I guess. He hasn't been very efficient, and he was one of my sell highs for the past 2 weeks. Hopefully you're able to do it, but Kyren Williams could have a very serious role in this offense. All right, at number 4, how about Latavius Murray? I'm sorry, I'll never do that again. Latavius Murray, currently rostered in 46% of sleeper leagues. He has a touchdown in back-to-back weeks. It's very clearly a split backfield in Denver. Melvin Gordon typically starts off the first 2 drives, and then it's split kind of every 2 drives from Latavius to Melvin in this offense right now. And I guess it's kind of working. Melvin Gordon outsnapped Latavius Murray this week. However, Latavius outtouched Melvin 16-13. So he had more rushing attempts than Melvin outtouched him overall. So it seems to be a true split backfield. However, on the goal line and with the scarcity of the running back position, you can't really, beggars can't be choosers. So Latavius is someone that should be rostered. And, if you're covering off injuries or bye weeks, he's a pretty decent start based off of the matchup. I'm willing to spend about 15% of my fab. If you're very desperate for a running back, you can bump that number up, but that's probably what he's worth. At number 3, shout out to a guy that both myself and my co-host Badaki have been advocating for, and we've taken some heat for advocating for this guy, but I don't care. We ride with him, and that is Justin Fields, currently rostered in 41% of sleeper leagues. He is the quarterback 3 on the week. In our format, he put up over 30 fantasy points. We play 6-point passing touchdowns. He's been on a tear in the past 4 weeks. In the past 4 weeks, he's averaging 22.4 fantasy points, 6-point, passing touchdown leagues, and over 10 rushing attempts per game. That's what's huge for Justin Fields. You'll see in the past 4 to 5 weeks, they have started to really scheme rushing attempts for Justin Fields, and he's been very successful with those opportunities. Upcoming schedule is very favorable. He's got Miami, who's not very good in their secondary right now, Detroit, Atlanta, and then the Jets. So this is a very good run of games. If you're someone like me who started Derek Carr this week and had Justin Fields on your bench, I'm absolutely starting Justin Fields next week versus Miami. So if you need a solid quarterback and you're streaming the position, I'm happy to spend about 25% of my fab to get Justin Fields on the roster. I know that's a little bit of an overpay, but you know, I had Derek Carr put up under 3 points this week, so I'm willing to do that personally. At number 2, let's talk about Ron the Dondale Moore, rostered in 50% of sleeper leagues. If you look 2 weeks ago, I did this video because we alternate every other week, and he was one of my top guys to pick up 2 weeks ago. Somehow we still only rostered in 50% of leagues, but in week 7, if you played him versus the Saints, that would have been disappointing for you. However, that was all tied to the game script. In week 8, the Cardinals were back to their old ways and they were trying to come back in a game, and Rondale feasted. He had 7 receptions on 8 targets for 92 yards and a touchdown. He looked good. He looked explosive. So I expect Rondale to be a good flex option to bring you some consistent 10 to 15 point games until Hollywood is back. I'm willing to spend about 20-25% of my fab on him as well. And at the number 1 position here, I think the reason this player is at the number 1 position is because of how scarce this position is. And that is Greg Dulcich, rookie tight end in Denver. He's currently rostered in 47% of sleeper leagues. Dulcich has scored over 10 fantasy points in every game he's played this year since his debut in week 6. He's clearly the best tight end on this team, and he gives Denver a reliable pass catching option outside of Sutton and Judy, which is something that this offense desperately has needed. In a world where tight ends are unreliable and you can't count on them, Dulcich should be a priority. He should be the number 1 tight end picked up in every single league this week, and you can start him straight away. This is a very, like, having someone that you can rely on in fantasy from the tight end position is, you can't undervalue that. So depending on how desperate you are, if you already have a starter that you're happy with, don't spend this much. But if you're seriously struggling with a tight end position, go out and spend about 30% of your fab to lock up a guy who is ascending, who we might not even have seen his true ceiling just yet. So I like Dulcich. Again, I'm happier to spend 20, but I think you might have to hit 30 if you really want to lock him up at the tight end position. Just being realistic with what we've seen around the fantasy leagues this year with fab. So those are my top 10 for the week. If you're still here with me, you know, shout out to you. Thanks for hanging out. Hope you're having a good day. Let me know what you're doing today, what you're up to. So all together, we brought you 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 names. We brought 21 names on this video. So no matter what kind of league you're in, there's going to be someone out there for you to target. Hey, if you're, you know, kind of middle of the pack right now, struggling a little bit in fantasy, don't give up. You know, do it for the fun of it, and keep putting the best team that you can out there, and you never know what can happen. Good luck heading into week 9. Let's get some W's, and we'll see you in the next video.
Yo, what's good? Thanks for watching. We got a lot more videos.
A lot more.
If you want more videos,
watch it.
You can also subscribe
right now
if you want to.
You need to.
And lastly, don't forget that you can sign up to support the show and get exclusive content by going to patreon.com/FantasyLand fam.